working? Oh, okay, great. I was told to have the mic just in case. Everybody can hear me, I think. Yes. Great, excellent. So I'll start off by saying that speaker manual told us to be less boring. And what can be less boring than talking about media tech? However, I can assure you that this will be absolutely riveting conversation when you get to hear what the chaps have got to say. So, as I was introduced, I'm marketing manager at Base. My name's Tanya Rai. We deliver cloud-native media services to help creative agencies and other companies who create video content to securely migrate their content into the cloud, create a content hub, and design, build, and manage media workflows. I am on the lectern, so I have decided that I will ask questions like a quizmaster. So without further ado, let's go to the questions that are to be answered against the clock. And question number one, I'll go to you, Will, to begin with, is how were you managing your media workflows before using cloud-native tools?
Okay, against the clock. Hello, everyone. So I work on running a high-performance podcast. God, how were we managing our media? We were using almost free tools that stayed into like Dropbox at the start, and our media asset management needs just drastically changed quite quickly. So we were basically using a 50 gig to a terabyte and very quickly upscaled to about 8 terabytes a week. So our production needs grew, our media asset management needs grew. So we needed something that would basically store our archive as good as possible for us, because for us the archive almost is as important as new content. It's one of the most important things that we can look after.
Great. And Matt, can you talk to that from VaynerMedia's point of view?
Hey, I work for VaynerMedia. We're a creative media agency founded in the US by Gary Vaynerchuk. So we produce a significant amount of content across short-form social content we call SMAs, social media ads, and more longer-form kind of your traditional campaign work. And I'd say the process beforehand was pretty archaic in the sense that we had physical infrastructure in the office, which meant that it took up a lot of space, and at the time the office actually wasn't that big. So it actually cramped upon less space than we probably needed, which actually meant that to access project files and working files, it was a pretty laborious and manual process, and certainly wasn't conducive to an efficient way of working, and working across multiple markets, which we do at Vayner.
And John, can you elaborate on that? Because you're working on everything day to day at VaynerMedia.
Yeah, I mean, back then it was massive hard drives, and if you wanted to send anything anywhere else, you would have to get a bike or a van. You know, having couriers going to the Netherlands and shipping stuff down to Brighton and what have you, or running around between. We were in Hoxton back then, going into Soho, so. And we had a very slow, clunky internal server that was like something from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, to trying to get into it and find something. It was like the crystal maze, where is this asset? So, yeah, interesting, but completely impractical.
And moving on to question number two, what was it about working in the cloud that was so compelling for you? And why did you use Base instead of doing it in-house? Will, let's start with you.
I was on a shoot, actually, when I first saw Base in action. We were working with a third-party production partner to help us film some content. And at this point, we were transitioning, as I said before, from upskilling the amount of content we were shooting, from like 1 podcast into about 5 podcasts and shooting content for the app. And at this point, we started losing video files. Anything over like 100 gig was becoming really problematic for us to download. And I was on a shoot, and the producer and the camera guy were uploading, which would have been Base at the time, had I not known it, and it was automatically uploading with all this metadata in it, and everything kind of stored. And that started the conversation, the need to investigate it further, knowing that we had this kind of production problem to solve. So that was my first experience, and why we transitioned into the cloud.
And from VaynerMedia's perspective, especially as VP of Business Affairs and Operations, what was the compelling thing for you?
Well, we have 15 offices globally, and we actually work in even more markets than that. So moving away from that, having one, physical infrastructure that's in person, like I said before, wasn't conducive to working in multiple markets. So having a cloud-based system and solution enables us to essentially work more collaboratively across those 15 offices. So we can actually, using the APAC and EMEA example is a really good one. We can actually take advantage of time zone differences. So APAC can work on something and access the working files, obviously from where they're based, work on something overnight our time, and we can pick stuff up in the morning. So it really allows this kind of 360 model, and just really, it drives ultimately better ways of working and efficiency.
And John, from a studio producer perspective, you would have had some influence in the decision-making process. And I think you were there during the transition from what they were doing before and then what they're doing now. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it was a total game changer for us because we had also the move to Iconic coincided with a massive growth in our post-production team, in-house and freelance, to the extent I think one particular summer, about a year after we adopted Iconic, we had something like 15 editors and 3 motion designers all working on different projects. So to sit in the center of that as I would be and coordinate distribution of footage, collections, project files, to have it all in one place where I could access it, I think confidently I can access anything within 5 minutes that we've worked on at any point and distribute that to a team both working in the offices and working remotely across multiple different territories was just fantastic. And to have all the tools we needed in one place. Because before, you use maybe Frame for reviewing, you might use Vimeo for sharing with client, etc. and all those. For us to have everything on one platform, from ingest through to delivery to client was just unbelievable. It was just fantastic. It was, like I say, it's a total game changer for us.
And just for the benefit of the audience, when John references Iconic, it's a media asset management solution, so the content hub I was referring to earlier, where you can centralize all your assets in one place. Miles, can you talk to that question a little bit from the customer management perspective, because you're technical account manager at Base, and you manage the accounts for both High Performance and VaynerMedia?
Yeah, so I think I'll speak about kind of what Base is. So we are a managed service provider for cloud-based solutions. Now, there are many parts to that, but the two that I'll focus on are cloud-based solutions, which you've kind of heard about. So things like finding and sourcing tools for storage of your content, asset management, remote workstations, and distribution as well. So we'll bring all those tools together and provide them, but also the managed service part. So we are that kind of wraparound care. I'm a technical account manager, so I'm like the day-to-day. These guys have probably had enough of speaking to me, but we have regular catch-ups, and I'm kind of that point of contact. We also offer a support portal, so if you have any issues with any of those tools, there's one portal where you speak to our support team. We speak to the various providers if needed, and also what we find really useful is a single invoice. So even if you're working with various different partners, just one invoice through us, so rather than having to split those out, we manage all of that. So we kind of bring all of those together to provide those services as needed.
Yeah, I would say that we work really closely with Miles, who's been excellent on designing the actual workflow that's kind of customized to how we work, because we are self-professed, not the experts. We just plug into whether it's the editors or it's people doing marketing or people doing partnerships who would all use the media asset management system in a different way. Whereas like Pivotal was probably putting the metadata into the content, so it then becomes a really easily searchable library. So when we're pulling up clips and making archive episodes and things on a Friday, having speed of action and be able to download it and subclip clips from is become like vital in that workflow for us.
I'll move on to question number 3, which is around describing what your end-to-end workflows look like and how it's helped you and your teams. But before I move on to our customers, Miles, can you talk at a high level what their workflows actually look like?
Yeah. So at super high level, it generally consists of go to shoots, gather your content, and then those rushes need to be stored immediately. So uploading those into cloud, so that's the cloud storage which we discussed earlier on, and then that goes into asset management. So while you're sending that off to editors to begin the editing process and sharing that internally, reviewing it and kind of going back and versioning it, we're also capturing that for archive. So you can capture all of your different versions, and also, as Will kind of mentioned, capturing that metadata early or at any stage, at various stages throughout, so that when you need to dive back into your library later on, it's easily discoverable rather than searching for hard drives that may not even be in the same country. You can kind of find your content kind of at your fingertips. And then from that point on, generally, ultimately distribution.
And Will, can you talk to that from a day-to-day perspective? Because there's been a lot of change for high performance since adopting these solutions.
Yeah, the biggest change has been in and amongst the amount of data coming in. So as I said, you've gone from this kind of 1 terabyte to 8 terabytes a week, which is a huge change for us to manage as a team. We are now having 6 podcasts, all with their own producers, all with their own editors, and all working in remote parts of the country. So, you know, that biggest change was designing a workflow. So from pre-production to production to then a system where they can download the proxies of the files and start editing them quickly. And then, as you said, tagging it with the right metadata so anyone can drop the products and pick it up. A new editor come into it, and everything's kind of seamless. So, you know, we release 3 times a week on the main show as well. So there's constant deadlines, constant things that have to be met. And, you know, the worst thing that could happen would be that there wasn't any footage, or you lost it, or there was no. So yeah, that's probably the biggest change for us.
I think the just ability to move at speed. That's really just been a game.
Definitely.
Just been a real game changer for us. I think I'd also like to touch on the privacy element as well. Just I think, obviously, as you know, using my legal brain inside of my role, you know, we obviously have client obligations to uphold, you know, confidentiality, security requirements for some of the biggest global brands out there. And obviously, if we think back to the solution that we had in place originally, it's pretty hard to uphold that when it comes to security. So actually having a system in place that gives us that peace of mind has been also just a real game changer for us, but also for our clients.
And John, from your perspective as well, we were talking earlier about the kind of campaigns that you've been working on, and you mentioned Orlando earlier. Can you give us an idea as to how that worked for you?
Yeah, I mean, we work for a large online fashion retailer where we do seasonal campaigns, and they have a very strict timeline. And so on the latest campaign we're working on now, we're able to get the footage from the shoots. I mean, this shoot was in Lisbon. Each day we're receiving rushes from the set each day. So our creatives are able to go in there and start giving notes for the editors directly onto the rushes. The edit team could get a head start on, you know, downloading, doing assemblies, showing assemblies back with the creative team, to the extent where it saves us about a week to 10 days. And when you've got a truncated timeline of about, you know, you've got about a month less than ideally you would normally have, that is the difference between delivering on time and being right up against the wall. So it's essential part of our workflow now, like I say, to have everything in one place where the entire team can work into a central hub. And using the various tools that come with it, we use the ISG. So we keep all our rushes in the cloud. So using the ISG, we can ping up 4 terabytes of footage in no time at all. It's one of the things I rave about to people when they say, let me show you our ISG, which has a special place, protected zone in the office that no one's allowed to touch. And it's like this magic box which shoots large collections of footage into the cloud in unbelievable amounts of time. So yeah, everyone our creative team particularly love it as well, account teams.
And one more thing to cover off is, I know that there'll be people sitting in the audience who will be asking, okay, sounds great. You're working in the cloud, streamlining all your workflows. You're able to access your content really easily, helping to manage your archive, but what's it going to cost me? And we wanted to kind of talk about the affordability element and what the alternative is. Will, can you talk to that a little bit for high performance?
Well, as I said, I've been in a position where we've lost footage before, whether hard drives got misplaced or we had issues with, you know, downloading files that were, you know, crashed. So actually, when you're putting so much effort and time into creating a product and filming a podcast, if you lose it, then how valuable, you know, how valuable is that you haven't got it? So when that started happening and we started seeing the kind of workflow and the process, and losing, then we can't put anything out next week. That's when we knew that we needed something to find an affordable option for high performance that would work with us, that would basically secure all of our content. So it almost, you can't put a price on that part of it for us.
And Matt, from the commercial perspective for you, we were talking earlier about the multiple time zones that you all work to and the streamlining of everything there. So can you just quickly talk about that, because we've got like 1 minute.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think in terms of obviously the multi-market work that we do, I think when it comes to the commercial side, it's clearly cost beneficial, in the sense that the value add that we've got from onboarding the solution, the time that we save, the ability to work quickly, all the things that we've discussed today, it clearly makes sense, certainly comparative to more traditional kind of solutions.
And one last thing, John, you were talking about how it's improved and accelerated your timing, like sticking to schedules and actually exceeding them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Instead of waiting for the rushes to come at the end of a shoot, and then you're waiting for a courier to arrive, we had proxies from the set already in the cloud. We were working before the SSDs arrived. And then even when the SSDs arrive at the shoot, we get the rest of all the assets up in the cloud in a matter of hours, which is incredible, really, if you think about the other way. And then we can send those. So we have an editor working in Amsterdam, an editor working in London. They're able to work simultaneously together from the same collections. The creatives have access to that same collection with absolutely everything in it. And so in terms of integrating the team and coordinating the movement between the team, and that same collection then goes over to the post house. They'll be doing the grade, and we'll use that same space to be sharing edits with the client, and we'll do our final delivery for a multi-market localization via the same collection. So everything's all in one place.
Brilliant, thank you. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for having us, MadFest. Come and find us. We'll be in the Tags Head Bar if you want to chat to us and find out more about what we do. Thank you very much.